I'm finally done. So I asked him what he wanted to do today, and he's like, yeah, I want to go see, like, Sing Song Blue. It's with Hugh Jackman. It's basically a drama romance. He's a huge fan of romance. And the drama was good. I enjoyed the drama. I think I will now go to YouTube once I get back. And am I going the right way? Okay, yeah, I'm going the right way. Okay, cool. I drove off the road slowly, or the highway. What is it called? Yeah. I drove off that. No, I really need it. It's really windy, so instead of going straight back so you can go ahead and exit, it winds and curves for the driveway. It's long enough where you can place like 5-6 cars on it, so just in a line, or maybe more. I don't know. But anyways, we were watching it, and I'm like, you know what? I am not a fan of romance. I'm not a fan of romance. And that was on me. I was like, hey, do you want to watch any or do anything? And he's like, yeah, Sing Song Blue. And then it was about 8 o'clock, and he's like, oh yeah, I have, I was like, okay, so we have 2 hours. Is there anything you want to do in between now and then? And he's like, yeah, I want to go to, he suggested coffee, Starbucks. And I was like, okay. I checked because it was 8 o'clock, and I was like, I wonder if they're closed. I looked, and they closed at 9. I was like, okay, so we have 2 hours before it closes, and then this gives us enough time to go ahead and go get Starbucks. And he's like, oh, but I have a Starbucks gift card. I was like, at the house. I was like, we can go back to your house and like get the gift card. And so like we go back to the house, and he ends up spending about an hour getting the Starbucks card and then also his jacket. I don't know what happened. I do know that he's physically disabled, so it might have been because of that, or I don't know. Like, I just don't know. I just know that an hour later, and basically he's like, oh yeah, we can go to Starbucks. I was like, by the time we get to Starbucks, they will be closed. It'll be 9:04. And he's like, oh, there's one near here. And I was like, that's the one for near here. The one for near here, like, if we go to the other place, I realized, or after 9:04, it would have been like 9:06 or 9:10, and they closed at 9 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, they're completely closed. There's nothing we can do. And he's like, oh, I was like, was there anywhere else you wanted to go to? I let him know I do need to get gas. So we can get gas, and then on the way, like, in the meantime, you can go ahead and find somewhere else. And then after a while of him, like, looking, he was like, at first he tried to think of a place. I was like, you can use Google. So he, like, went ahead and used Google, and after a while, like, I didn't hear anything from him, and I was like, or like, you can pick a place, but if you don't want to, that's fine. Like, I completely understand. Like, it's fine, no pressure either way. And so, like, he ended up picking Baskin Robbins, so I was like, okay, there we go. So yeah, I don't know what happened, because, for example, whenever we left the house in order to get into the car, like, he would take a step or two and then pause, a step or two and then pause. And I don't know what's, now he does use a cane to walk, but at the same time, if I, like, walked with him, he, like, constantly tried to move. But if it's like I'm waiting in the car, he would go ahead and take a step to walk and then stop, take a step, stop, take a step, stop. So I don't know. Something that I did learn through all this, because he is a few years older than I am, is that if I ever have a kid that is physically disabled, don't baby them. Like, just don't. Like, it's one of the worst things you can do to your kid. And I say that because there's deaf kids who are also babied, and because they are also babied, what ends up happening is that they get out into the real world, or like out from underneath their parents' protection, and they don't know how to handle life. They don't know, they may eventually learn how to get a job or something similar to that, but like they don't know how to do stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, that's the worst thing you can do. So I'm like, yeah, no, I just don't baby your kid. Like, just don't. Like, basically, I saw this one video where basically this kid, it was a toddler, did not have hands at all. And it's like, oh man, they don't have hands, they can't grab a hold of stuff, they can't like use a fork, nothing like that. So what the parents did was that they were playing with a drum set, and they took their hands, or like their hand, and they went ahead and were beating a drum with a stick. And so the baby sort of reached out to the parents, and the parents went ahead and gave the baby the drumstick. And the baby took both of their arms, because they have nubs, they don't have hands, and they went ahead and started hitting the thing. Took the stick and then started hitting the drum with the stick. The parents started crying, and I know it's like a really wonderful thing, especially when your child just automatically learns that. Guess what? It's a toddler. It goes ahead and it's like, oh, you're doing this, I can do it too. Like, it doesn't think, I don't have hands, I can't do this, I'm gonna go ahead and be depressed. It's like, oh, you're doing this, so I'm automatically going to start to try to also do it. So like, basically, don't, like, if you ever have a disabled child, don't treat them any differently. Like, just, and don't like try and baby them like, oh, are you sure you can do this? Yeah, I'm sure I can do this, like 100%. Like, don't do that. Just be like, you know what, I am going to do this. So for example, another thing is that there's this, it was prescribed for women who were pregnant who had nausea, because it helped take care of their nausea. Well, they found out that basically that drug was causing kids to be born without arms or legs. So what ended up happening, please don't hit me. Okay. Without arms or legs. So what ended up happening was that they eventually discovered that medication was actually causing people to, hey, nice, to not have arms or legs. And it's like, oh yeah, no, we're not gonna do that, or whatever. You know what? There we go. We're not gonna do that. Or like, basically, you know, they discontinued the medication for women who were pregnant for nausea. So they stopped doing that, which is good job. And then from there, let's see, so they did that. And then one of the things that they showed was that this girl, she was born without arms or legs, and she's in a strap thing, and her parents do everything for her. Like feed her and things like that. And they're like, okay, she can't do anything for her. There's a little bit of problem with that. So I say that because, like, she can still move her head, she can still move her body, she just doesn't have arms or legs. And they're like, yeah, basically she's permanently disabled. The only problem with that is Nick Vujicic, something like that. He has no arms, no legs, just a little flipper. Guess what? He drives. He goes ahead and feeds himself. He goes ahead and, like, he drives. He can go ahead and drive a car. He can go swimming. He can do all these things. He does all of that, whereas the other lady, she is completely dependent upon her parents. And so my thing is like, no, like, I don't think it's necessarily that her parents, or like she's disabled. I think it's basically that her parents felt obligated, maybe, because she did not have arms or legs, that they're like, okay, we have to feed her, and like we have to use all this stuff even though like she still has a head, she can still communicate, she has a body, and it's just she has no arms and legs, which sucks. Like, you know, being able to do the stuff that I do is great, but I'm like, yeah, I don't think in this case, I don't think she's disabled. I think you're disabling her by not teaching her or allowing her to learn how to do stuff. So for example, in this case, the guy that I hung out with, like, I noticed he would take his time, like, walking, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead, give him as much time. I'm going to help him out with very, very little. So, for example, he, at one point, like, we ended up walking upstairs. We bought our own tickets. Like, I bought mine, and then he bought his. He was like, do you want me to buy your ticket? I was like, no, thanks, I got it. He's like, I'm just trying to help. It's like, dude, it's okay. Like, I'm an independent woman. You're okay. So yeah, what I did was that what ended up happening? Yeah, so we each bought our own tickets. There we go. But yeah, so in his case, like, at one point he, like, walked into movie theater, and then he attempted to walk upstairs, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to help him, I'm not going to baby him. He is, like, a grown adult, and, like, if he wants to do something, he can go ahead and do it. Like, go for it. If it takes him a few extra minutes in order to, for example, close my door, that's on him. Like, he can totally do this stuff. And if him, like, and I imagine that by him doing this stuff, it may, I hope, make him feel some way of accomplishment. But I, like, in that case, I'm just like, I feel like it's not necessarily the fact that he is disabled. I feel more like it's his parents who are sort of disabling him, and they don't understand how to work with people who are physically handicapped. Because if you're not mentally handicapped, you can totally still do stuff. For example, he has his master's. He has his master's in counseling. Guess what I have? I only have an associate's. I don't have a master's. So, like, he has the brain to do this stuff. Apparently. And now he's looking at possibly becoming a lawyer. So I'm like, yeah, like, there's no, like, his parents, all in all, like, his parents are doing the best according to what they believe they needed to do and what they need to do. But for me, I'm just like, my thing is that, you know what? Like, he's a grown adult. He's a grown adult. So what did I take from all that? Like, even if your kid is disabled, let's say blind or deaf, or, like, I forget what he has. It's like basically where your muscles don't do what they're supposed to do, basically. So if any of that is going on, basically just, like, treat your kid like a normal person, even if it's hard to watch or experience, or even if you're like, oh, I want to help out my kid. Good job. You know, you're being a parent. You want to help out your kid. But guess what? If you constantly help out your kid, especially when they are physically disabled, the only thing that you're really doing is making them even more disabled, and basically be like, oh, I'm completely and utterly helpless and I can't do, like, anything by myself. So yeah, I'm just like, yeah, no, like, he needs to do all of this stuff by himself. Or not all of this. He needs to do a lot of this stuff by himself without his parents being like, oh no, like, being so concerned. He's like, so you know how old I am? He's 3 years older than I am. And I'm just like, dear, like, what? Like, so for example, like, 2 years ago, he ended up having to do one surgery, and then a month later another surgery because of certain things that went wrong. And he stopped driving because of those surgeries, I guess, and he had to heal. But that was 2 years ago. He hasn't attempted to really build up his strength in terms of, like, physicality or anything. He had his driver's license probably expired, actually. A driver's license usually lasts 2, maybe 5, 10 years, I think. But yeah, I'm just like, yeah. So there's my rant of a lesson for tonight, is if your child is physically disabled, they can still do a lot of stuff. You would be, like, some people are like, oh my goodness, my, like, child is playing the drums even though he doesn't have hands. He can still feed himself. There are so many, like, I've seen, like, if you need to, or if people need to, what I vote is go to support groups, go to conferences where there's other people with certain disabilities, either with disabilities, or, like, look online, because there's so many videos about different people doing things. Go on there and, like, check it out. And it's like, what? So, yeah, I'm like, go on there, check it out, experience that, all that jazz, in order to, yeah, go on there, all that jazz, because I'm just like, they're, like, it basically treat them like they're a human being, not like, they're like, oh my goodness, you can't do anything for yourself. And so what you end up having is someone who's his age, living at home, like, afraid to get their driver's license, or afraid to even continue driving, and, like, I don't think they've worked. They do stuff with their parents or for their parents. And I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, no sense of independence whatsoever. Like, in my case, I understand I'm still not as independent as I would like to be, but I'm not that dependent on my family. So, yeah, basically, like, if they're disabled in some way, shape, or form, like, if they're mentally disabled, go ahead and figure out how to navigate that. I still remember I saw this parts of a movie in which it was a little girl. She couldn't talk or anything like that. She was actually autistic. The doctors were like, she's not going to be able to speak or anything like that. And the mom was like, you know what, I'm just going to work with my kid. And so you basically have all these kids who are there at this convention that are nonverbal, that are autistic. And basically the lady, one of the women stands up. Basically, it's the mom and her autistic daughter who is able to speak. They go ahead and they start... The daughter who's autistic, she goes ahead and starts speaking in front of the group, and she's like, yeah, basically, like, this is what autism means, and, like, what I was able to do, or, like, what was needed in order to become, like, communicate and things like that. And someone asked her, so, like, who's your daughter? And she's like, oh, I'm the one that's autistic. And then, like, people were like, what? So, again, I think it takes knowledge of how to, like, handle the situation, or, like, knowledge, understanding, and seeing how other people are overcoming it and handling it, and then from there moving forward. Because, like, I know some things require physical therapy, for example. Other things is like, okay, you see that spoon? I want you to grab that spoon. Like, basically you're like, okay, you want to eat? You need to grab the fork. Like, I'm not helping you at all. Like, sometimes it requires that so that your kid can become very self-sufficient. So, yeah, overall, like, seeing that, and then also with my parents working with deaf people, I'm just like, come on, like, deaf people, they can totally be self-sufficient and all that and live life, and I'm just like, no. But yeah, we watched Sing Song Blue, what ended up happening was that basically it included Hugh Jackman, and during it, was at the end, because the movie finished out like 12:20. And so I ended up going to the restroom. By the time I came out, there were a couple cops waiting outside the movie theater for me, and they're like, "Hey, so and so is waiting for someone." I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And so I went over there. Someone apparently called the cops because we were out there, but it's like, dude, like the movie closed or ended at 12:20. If you don't want it to, like, for us to get out that late, then like start at 9:30, not 10. So yeah, what was it? So the cops talked to us, and then while they were running my record, one of the cops asked us what we watched, and it's like Sing Song Blue, and the cop asked us, "Is it any good?" And my friend was like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "It's good if you like drama, romance, and dramas." And the guy was like, "My girlfriend would probably like it." And I was like, "Oh, are you a fan of like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings?" Or not Harry Potter, I was like Star Wars, Star Trek. And he's like, "Yeah, Star Wars." I think he said Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. So it's like, yeah, the good stuff. Because, yeah. I mean, it was a good drama. It just basically talked about a couple. Basically, they, like, were both previously married. The guy was addicted to alcohol. He joined Alcoholics Anonymous. And then eventually after 20 years, he ended up meeting this lady who was a singer. And he, after like a week or 2 weeks, he asked her out, and they started dating. And then he ends up creating a band, because of him. He's like, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna call ourselves Thunder and Lightning." And so, like, basically it just tells about their life over like 2-3 years that they experienced. And also, what was another part? He ended up proposing to her less than a year after they met. I don't know how far after that they got married. But yeah, so they ended up getting married, and then what was it? At one point, she was like putting in a rose garden, and then this car came around the bend and ended up hitting her, and she lost her life due to that. And during that time, she ended up becoming addicted to pills. And eventually, at one point, I think one of the breaking points was she went outside, and in her mind, she was like, "Yeah, I'm singing in front of this crowd of people, and like having a wonderful time." And then her husband comes up and is like, "Yeah, you're like, you need to go outside." And she's like, "No, you're embarrassing me. You're like, this is my time to shine." Well, he goes ahead and he's like, "We gotta go inside." Then you break out of that illusion that she's on stage, and you see that she's actually in her front yard, and her husband is trying to convince her to go inside. And the kids are like outside crying because she's basically like having a psychotic break, or like just become delusional basically at this point. So yeah, the kids are crying, and at that point he goes ahead and checks her into rehab. Yeah, so he checks her into rehab, and then after that, so he checks her into rehab, and then after he checks her into rehab, what does he end up doing? he's crying because he's like, and he talks to a nurse, and the nurse is like, are there any drugs that she needs to take while here? And he just sort of breaks down, and he's like, am I doing the right thing? Like, by checking in my wife into rehab. And basically for them, like, music was kind of the thing that bonded them. And then after a few months, she's released around Christmas, and during the time that she's in rehab, her daughter is like, yeah, basically, I'm 4 months pregnant. And her stepdad basically is like, what? And like, she opens up her robe, and there's a full 4-month-old, like 4-month belly. And he had no idea. He's like, wait, what? Like, you're 4 months old? Or 4 months pregnant. He had no idea about this. And he's like, hey, so, and she's like freaking out because she feels as though she's having to carry the family. So like, for example, the mom, whenever she was hit by the car, like, he ended up having some kind of heart attack, which honestly, by the way, if you're having a heart attack, just go to the doctor and like get that fixed, because he kept having, I guess, many heart attacks, and he eventually died due to a heart attack. And it's like, dear sir, like, if something happens, yeah, I know medical debt sucks, but like, you really, really like need to get yourself checked out, because having that blocked in your body is not good. Like, just no, you're gonna die. Yep, sure enough, he died. But yeah, so and then the lady who was 4 months pregnant, she's like, yeah, everybody's relying on me, like my little brother, and then also mom, and then you, like, especially whenever he had the heart attack. And she's like, and then I'm like, have like stuff going on, and he's like, oh, what's going on? What's wrong? And she's like, I'm pregnant. And he's like, how long did you know? And she's like, I'm 4 months. And then honestly, like, they show her being pregnant, but the pregnancy that they showed, she did not look 4 months pregnant. She looked closer to like 7 or 8 months pregnant, honestly. I think they just like exaggerated it because to make it obvious that she is pregnant, basically. So like, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, gotcha. So she was pregnant, and then he's like, what plans do you have? And he's like, well, like, his mode, he immediately goes into, I need to fix this mode. And so she's like, yeah, basically, this is what I usually do. Like, no, not usually do, sorry. She is not pregnant multiple times. But she's like, this is what I plan on doing, is basically she wants to have the baby. And she found out about this couple who she talked to an adoption agency, and she's like, yeah, the couple, they're willing to pay for everything. And he's like, okay, cool. So basically everything's taken care of. And he's like, okay, what do you need next from me? Or who do you want to be there for your support network? And she's like, my mom. So mom comes back home around Christmas. And then I guess she occasionally gets into depressive episodes, and during that time she gets all spacey. But because of music, she like is able to actually focus and not be all spacey, basically. And I think due to healthy medication, basically. So medicine in order to keep her hormones and everything in balance. So that ends up happening. They give her, what did they give her? So yeah, she comes out of the psych ward, or like drug rehab. She comes out of the drug rehab, and whenever she comes out, she's like back at the house for a couple months, and she's like, okay, yeah, I want to start singing again, and I want to start like living life and doing things. So tell me, what have I missed over the past few months? And so the dad, or like the stepdad, turns to his stepdaughter and is like, do you want to tell her or shall I? So basically, her mom ends up being there for her, supporting her with like, what was it? The birth, like basically, like the birth classes, and then there we go. Being there for like birth classes, and being there for like, so what was it? The birth classes, and then also for like others. So birth classes, what else was there? It was like birth classes and something else. Ended up being there for like, I know my hair's, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Okay. Birth classes, and then actually for her birth, and then the adoption parents came in and like took the baby, and she's like young, she's like 16, maybe 17, and so she's like, I can't, like, she can barely, she's the one that's also like has a good steady job that's helping out her parents and such, so like she's feeling overwhelmed and such. So then, like, the adoption parents came in and take the child away. And, like, this is something, she didn't change her mind. She was like, you know what, this is actually something that I want. Because she understood, like, I can't take care of a baby. I'm taking care of, like, everybody else in the family. And so from there, what did she end up doing? Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, she ends up doing that. And then at the end, like, yeah. The mom ends up feeling better and getting off drugs, and they end up singing together a few times. And then, so Thunder and Lightning end up getting together and then doing like a Neil Diamond show, I think it was, a concert. So Neil Diamond was performing a concert at one location, and then Thunder and Lightning went ahead and did like a Neil Diamond concert at another location. So it's like, aw. Like, so yeah, it was, in that area, it was sweet. It was just like, it was a drama. And it was like a romance about life, or like a romance with them while they're living through life. So, yeah, and now I really want to watch like Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, something fantasy, I don't know, something Avatar, The Last Airbender, Avatar, something action. So yeah. As a musical, it was not a musical. It was basically a drama movie with music in it, in which they sang a variety of songs. So I'm not chewing. I have some dirt in my fingernails that I'm trying to get out. Okay, there we go. So overall, yeah, it was, yeah, for a movie, it was good. It was decent. So yeah. And then, yeah, if you ever have kids that are physically disabled, just have a mosquito or something up here. Just basically, like, let them learn, let them do stuff, and then, yeah, just, yeah. I'm tired. I don't know. I will talk to you later. I hope you have a great night. Let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about, and I will respond. I will try my best to respond by like tomorrow night, because I have work tomorrow, or Saturday, sorry. I have work today / Saturday, so yeah, by the time you see this is Saturday morning. Yeah, and I'll talk to you later. Let me know if there's anything else, and I'll respond Saturday night. So yeah, bye. I love you.